Donald Trump met with House and Senate Republicans in separate meetings behind closed doors yesterday in what was his first visit back to the area around Capitol Hill since Congress was attacked on the 6th of January. But the former president is facing new pushback this morning after calling Milwaukee, the site of the Republican National Convention, quote, a horrible city. Joining me now is Charlie Sykes, MSNBC contributor and columnist, and Kimberly Atkins-Stohr, columnist for the Boston Globe and political analyst. So, Charlie, I want to start with you. I mean, I know you've been a longtime Milwaukee resident. Here's what Milwaukee's mayor had to say about Trump's comment.
We had a good meeting.
Did he say anything about you?
Nope.
Did you talk to him directly? Did you talk to him directly?
Yeah.
Donald Trump wants to talk about things that he thinks are horrible. All of us lived through his presidency, so right back at you, buddy. I'd say that. Look, obviously Donald Trump is wrong about something yet again. I find it kind of perplexing. I find it kind of strange that he would insult the largest city in Wisconsin because he's running for president. He obviously wants to win Wisconsin, win the election. And so to insult the state that's hosting your convention, I think is kind of bizarre, actually. It's kind of unhinged in a way.
So there we saw the second part there, which is the Mayor Johnson. Charlie, is this something that is going to hurt Trump in such a critical state?
Well, of course, you never know, what people are going to remember in November, but we often speculate about whether this or that comment will break through. Trust me, this broke through. Every single person in the state of Wisconsin heard what Donald Trump said and is watching it. It is leading all of the news broadcasts. It is the banner headline in all of the newspapers. And it's an extraordinary look for somebody to come in to the city and say what a horrible city it is. And then, of course, you have to watch the Republicans here in Wisconsin scrambling around trying to get their story straight. Somebody said, well, he didn't say it. And then they said, well, he did say it, but he was talking about election integrity. And another congressman said, no, he was talking about how democratic the city was. And somebody else is saying he's talking about crime. So it is not a good look either for the RNC or for Donald Trump in Wisconsin.
Yeah, and Kimberly, we were seeing there right before we had Mayor Johnson on, we heard from Senate Minority Leader McConnell. That was a question that was asked by our star, Ali Vitale, and she caught up with him after the meeting with Trump. What do you think that meeting with Trump was able to accomplish for Trump, but maybe also for the Republican Party writ large?
Yeah, clearly that was a meeting meant to rally the troops, saying for Donald Trump to say, get behind me or essentially get out, because we have seen Republicans who have been critical at all of Donald Trump leave office, choose not to run for re-election, including some of the folks in that room, including Senator Romney. But getting back to that first point about what's going on in Wisconsin, I think Donald Trump knew exactly what he was doing. And the fact that, as Charlie points out, it has gotten a lot of recognition is doing just what he wants. Listen, he is not talking to Milwaukee. Remember, Milwaukee is one of the cities whose votes he tried to nullify in 2020 in order to try to steal the election. Those aren't his voters. He doesn't care what they think. He's talking to the voters outside of Milwaukee, in Wisconsin and beyond. He is using the same fear tactics. This is racial dog whistling that he has done with cities like Chicago, like Philadelphia, like Atlanta, like Detroit, all cities that he sought to nullify their vote. So this is part of his plan, not only the dog whistles that he thinks that many in the Republican Party longs to hear, but also sort of signaling his plan to contest the votes in these places. So don't miss what's going on. It's not a mistake. It's part of the plan.
And Charlie, today, Donald Trump turns 78. He's holding a birthday rally tonight at Mar-a-Lago. President Biden on X just moments ago nudged Trump saying, happy 78th birthday, Donald. Take it from one old guy to another. Age is just a number. But this election, however, is a choice. How do you see this playing out, Charlie?
Well, I think what Joe Biden has to do is sharpen the messages like I'm old, he's old, but I'm old and he's old and crazy. He needs to emphasize those particular differences. But, just going back to what happened in Washington yesterday, I think that was less a rally than it was a surrender by the Republicans. I mean, what an extraordinary scene. Donald Trump returning to the scene of the crime and watching Mitch McConnell essentially take a knee, that Mitch McConnell didn't want to let a trifle like violent insurrection interfere with their ceremony of genuflection to the Orange God King. I mean, it's not new. It is not breaking news that this Republican Party is a wholly owned subsidiary of Donald Trump's ego. But that was really an extraordinary scene yesterday. And of course, we're going to be seeing this rolling out going forward. And by the way, to Kimberly's point about Donald Trump using his attack on Milwaukee to drive a wedge between Wisconsin voters, she's absolutely right about that. Wisconsin's a very, very divided state. And I'm guessing that you're going to hear this as a MAGA talking point, that of course, Donald Trump is right, that Milwaukee is a horrible city, just like all of the cities that are run by liberals and Democrats. But this is also, it's embarrassing, and it's generating an extraordinary amount of pushback from the civic community and the media and the grassroots here in Wisconsin. Trust me.
Charlie Sykes and Kimberly Atkins-Stohr, thank you both so much for being with me this afternoon. I very much appreciate it.